Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. All right, so AD's extension is the conversation I'm hearing around Laker Nation. Is more or less, do we want to give AD his extension? Um, and of course, I'd chime in because everybody who follows my channel knows that I've had strong opinions about what the Lakers should do over the years, over the last couple years. So, of course, this is a major thing for our team because at the end of the day, we have a choice with the foundation that we've put together with the role players that we now have and the young players that we now have. We're in a flexible position, in my opinion, based on how we're built, to have really a lot of superstars fit on this team. You know, we got some things that just make it so that guys can pick and plug. If for some reason we did move on from Bron and AD, we can put in guys that play their position and continue to run some of the same stuff. In theory, I do think that Anthony Davis's injury issues have been a concern, but I also think that he's been showing me that he's been improving upon his off-season workouts as his career is starting to get old. You know, as he's starting to get older, he's taking his body more serious, and I don't think he's too old right now to where I don't expect a massive season from him. A regular Anthony Davis season, probably even a better one than last, based on the momentum from last season. I think this is a hungry team, and I think it's going to be incumbent upon Anthony Davis to have even a bigger role than he had last year based on our size circumstances. So for me, I don't know that I've given as much thought as to what else I could replace Anthony Davis with if for some reason I get that cap space in 2024, because I haven't seen the free agent list. But I think that if you're the Los Angeles Lakers organization and the way that you've been operating, you want to solidify as much stability as possible. And one of the things that you pride yourself on seeing right now is the bigger picture. And what we want to do is continue the tradition of having superstars in place and having them retire in our uniform, put their jerseys up in the rafters, possibly get multiple championships, and maybe even a statue if they're great enough. That's kind of what we're selling to superstars, and we want to be able to keep that brand going forward into the future. So what you often don't do is take your superstars who won a championship for you, and send them out into the wild because you don't want to pay them their salary. That's not really the Laker way. We did that with Shaq, but that was after we had gotten 4 championships out of him. And so with Anthony Davis, I think when the fact that he fits the modern style a bit better, he's aging well, in my opinion, even though the injury issues have been what they have been. I still look at him as the best, as of right now, today, the best defensive player in basketball. Although there's going to be some long, lengthy dudes that are going to be hot on his tail that we know who they are, and they're coming into this league right now. But Anthony Davis is still the guy today. And I don't know that he's going to lose anything in regards to the defensive end as he ages into year 31, 32, 33, and 34, and 35, which is what ultimately we're looking at if we give him an extension for 4 or 5 years. Now, what I would want, just like I think everybody wants in any situation, is some sort of if not discount, then a acknowledgement of availability expectations worked into the equation. In other words, Anthony Davis shouldn't be given $67 million in year 5 and year 6. Like he shouldn't be given Dame Lillard's contract. We see how difficult that is to deal with. We would prefer nobody be on that type of contract. But I saw Joel Embiid's like at $54 million, $55 million in the last 2 years. I wouldn't mind seeing Anthony Davis at a range that's like that. That's absolutely reflective of that level of a player. I don't have a problem with that. But when we start getting into other atmospheres, no trade clauses and stuff like that, that's when I start being cautious. So that would be the thing for me. As long as Anthony's not looking for a no trade clause, I'd prefer not to lock up for 5 years. I don't really like any 5-year contracts personally, because that would send us into territory where it's, if you get into injury issues, you got a contract that you can't do nothing with. You just stuck, and that's if he gets in that injury in year 2 of the contract, year 3 of the contract, it's hell to pay. So we got to make sure the contract makes sense. And I trust that Jeannie and Rob will continue on the path of doing things that make sense for our franchise in that way, because we're on a good path right now with that over the last year or so. So that's what I hope. I think that's another reason why I don't mind them doing the extension right now, because I trust this version of us more so than I've trusted any version of us in that regard. So I don't know if next year I'm going to feel as good about whatever's going on that I'll think we should be trying to make that move then. I think this is the best version of us that should be looking to negotiate all different types of numbers and stuff like that. So I think that kind of stuff actually matters. So yeah, for me, I wouldn't mind giving Anthony Davis a 3-year super max. I don't know if that's the way to put it, but a 3-year with good money on it that he would be happy with. I don't think I would spare too much on the cash, but the years would be what I would kind of be cautioning. I don't want to give him 5. That's just too much. 4, I'd go up to 4. I'd prefer 3 as a fan, but 4 is what he should probably be getting. And that is a real commitment, man, to a guy who's had injury issues. That is a real commitment. So, with his motor issues and his scoring issues, I would always want to make sure I have scorers in place. I would always want to make sure I have guys that are self-motivated in place. And these are things that I also want worked into the price. And Anthony Davis is not a perfect superstar. And so he shouldn't get the perfect contract because of that. And that's just what it is. I don't know who the perfect superstar is, but I know there are tiers, and we got to respect that when we offer off contracts. Even for guys of his level, we got to respect that. And so that's where my head is. I think he's the premier defensive player in the league, but he has injury issues and motor issues. And sometimes he scores at a level that is unprecedented. Other times you can't count on him to score at all. And that I'm working into the price as well. So that's what it is, man. I'm not gonna try to lowball him or expect that he's gonna take a deal that like Austin Reeves or something like that, to where the haircut is substantial. I don't expect that, but I also don't expect for him to try to take the majority of our cap and leave us with nothing but him on the team based on that. I don't want him to dame us. Don't dame us. We still got LeBron James to consider, and he may want to sign an extension. I'm not certain he's going to retire next year. In fact, I'm pretty certain he's not. And all this talk about him going to play with his son, I think it's the real deal too. But at the same time, I'm not ruling out us getting his son somehow. I'm not ruling that out. Or that his son stays in school for another year after that. If he don't like where his draft stock is. He's already shown us he's not as happy with the mocks and where they've got his name. If he doesn't raise his draft stock on his own, he may want to stay in school. I don't know. But the point is, these are things that can ultimately determine whether or not LeBron sticks around. And you want to make damn sure you have his money available if you indeed want to keep this core together. And judging by the moves that we've made, we want to at least have the option to. So that's really what it comes down to. I think we'll be smart to make sure that whatever we're doing, it'll make sense. The back end of that Anthony Davis contract, I think Anthony Davis is a fantastic superstar who will likely be able to affect winning no matter what, so long as he's available to play. And if he's continuing to take care of his body the way that he is in this offseason, he continues to do those things, he'll probably be in just as good a shape 2-3 years from now as he is right now. But is that the greatest bet in the world? Probably not. Are you weighing that against the other superstars that may be coming available over the next several summers? That's what needs to be done. Because you give Anthony Davis this, that, and the third, and then you find out you want to pay so-and-so who's going to be coming up as a free agent 2 years from now, and maybe that could be a monkey wrench in that. Maybe you don't see any problems unless Anthony Davis has a catastrophic injury that throws that entire thing off. But then that happens, and now you're stuck. So these are things that we just have to be honest with. We have to be honest and say, do we have an out of what it is? If things get catastrophic, do we have an out? And if the answer is no, then we got to assess that versus the positives of what it is we're doing. And that ain't limited to Anthony Davis. But I think one of the biggest important questions the Lakers are always going to want to ask themselves is, do we have an out? Because we've been through too many situations over the last 12 years that we just didn't have one. And what really haunts me as a Laker fan is the Mozgov contract and the Dame contract. I'm telling y'all, that still lingers on me when I think about our potential as teams over the years and what we didn't have because that was eating up cap, not represented on no way, shape, or form. We were really mediocre in some years where all we needed was a few extra players, maybe 2 or 3 extra guys, or we had to let guys go because we didn't have the money to pay them, where that was the money right there. So for me, I know how bad that can be from year to year to year when you're stuck with one of those. I'm watching what's going on in Chicago with Lonzo Ball. I don't want no parts of that as a Laker fan. I don't at all want any parts of that. And that's why I'm most comfortable with Anthony Davis taking on fewer years. Most comfortable with him at 3 years. That way, at that third year, if he's done and it shows he's done, I'm off the hook. I'm off the hook, baby. And that's what I want. And if he still got it, then of course I want him to come back. We can give him an extension from there. But I don't want no 5-year deal. And 4 is not as comfortable as I would want it to be for my flexibility. I have to weigh the demand that I think I'm going to have to want to bring him back in that third year at age 34 versus what else I can get him that year at free agency. Because at 34, if he ain't still balling like this, then that's probably a risky contract, if not a bad one. And if he's already fallen off, and Ben fell off for 2 years at that point, if he starts falling off halfway through that contract, you're in a hole. And so that's what it really comes down to for a guy whose body is not necessarily reliable. These are things that you really legitimately have to be concerned with. And so that's what I ask myself. I say, do I think he's the premier defensive player in the league? Yes, I do. Do I think he remains an amazing superstar for the next 4 years? I think so, if he can stay healthy. If he ain't healthy, then I don't know what to expect from him. If he ain't coming in shape, I know that he's not going to give me everything I want. And so it's a lot to consider. But at the end of the day, best defensive player in the league, bar none. What he's able to do, not only with his length, but with his mind, reading defenses and ultimately stopping plays from play to play to play to play to play. He's the best. So that has to be worked into the equation as well. So, yeah, that's really what I think there. I think Anthony Davis, I'm coming to the conclusion that I would like to give him that extension now, and I would prefer it to be 3 years and just some good money, whatever the good money is. I don't know what that is, but good dollar amount for him. 50 something. I don't know what it looks like. I really ain't an expert when it comes to that stuff, but probably about 200 million. Probably about 200 million. 3 years, 200 million, something crazy like that. So the dollars represent us not having to give him that 4th year. That's what I would prefer. And in that way, he's locked up for all the money he wants, and I'm not locking myself in for him being done, or LeBron leaving and I'm not necessarily on par with his timeline, and maybe he's done at that point, so we can't trade him for nothing because he's too expensive to trade for anything, so you got a James Harden type situation. Nah. I want to guard against that. I've had too many years of things being tough for me to want to step back into something like that as a Laker fan. So that's really what it is. I hope everybody understands where I'm coming from. It's just the recent memory of very, very tough times that had to do with us not having enough talent on the floor based on bad contract circumstances. I'm very pleased that our team has dug ourselves out of that hole basically completely at this point, with all the young assets and talent in the world to make us a good team for an aging superstar duo. We are that. We're built for them. And so that's what I see clearly, that this team is built around these two superstars, for these two superstars to age and probably retire while these other guys around them getting better. So that's what we're going to do. That's what I think we're going to do. And by the time those guys get to where they're reaching their full development phases, we can usher out the superstars that have been in place and usher in likely the new superstars that'll be coming in. So 3 years, 4 years is basically what you expect that to be. And so from where I'm sitting, that looks pretty good. I love the role players that we got. I look at Max Lewis, Max Christie, Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, Gabe Vincent, all these guys on multiple year deals. I love that 5-man, handful, so to speak, is enough for us to feel confident that we have a nice role-playing crew, that we can bring ourselves some bigs. Of course, there'll be things we have to bring ourselves, and some of the players that we have in place will also keep on par for those years. But that's, we look good there. D'Lo's $20 million or so is always going to be in place to either trade or replace with somebody at that same price. Vanderbilt, we're going to have to pay sooner or later, which is going to be interesting to see how that works out. And Vanderbilt's working with Phil Handy right now. I hear they're doing great work, and from what I understand, Vanderbilt actually grew a little bit. According to Phil Handy, the man grew this summer. I thought Vanderbilt was like 24, 25 years old, and I thought guys stopped growing at a certain age, but apparently Vando's still putting on that height, and that is a very, very good thing. Very good thing. So hopefully he can get his offensive game into a space where he's comfortable and fluid out there, hitting the corner shot, continuing to slash, put pressure on the rim. If I have any concerns about the Lakers, I was giving a slight thought to this, is if anything I'm worried about is us finishing in the paint with our guards. Last year we had that as a strength with Russell Westbrook. We couldn't shoot very well, but he was always putting pressure on the rim, finishing, keeping us as one of the best teams scoring in the paint. This year, we don't have that rim pressure. And I don't know that we didn't pick up guys that absolutely don't have that as a strength. And Gabe Vincent and Jalen Hood-Schifino. Two guards that I know are going to be on the floor a lot that are not really putting any pressure on the rim. They're not finishing in the paint at all. So as I look at our team, one of the things I always hearken to growing up watching Charles Barkley talk a lot about basketball, the things that he always mentioned was making sure that you had size. He would always say, guys are too small, guys are not necessarily able to keep up with pace. These are things that he always used to say. And I just look at us and I say, he also used to mention jump shooting teams. This team is a jump shooting team. And these are three nuggets that I always took with me as I grew up watching the game. It's like if a team doesn't have enough size, if a team is only rendered to shooting jumpers, chances are they're not going to pass the Chuckster test. And as I grew to watch the game through that lens, I start to realize we also need to be able to put pressure on the rim with the teams that we put together. If you don't have that piercing through the defense and you're settling for teardrops or further back, then you're going to be likely not good enough to win a championship. You need that player that's going to constantly rush at the rim. And while LeBron James is obviously supposed to be that, at this stage in his career, if his foot isn't 100%, no. And if the foot wasn't the reason why he wasn't putting pressure on the rim, we got a problem. Because we're going to need him to do that. I'm letting the foot be the excuse, but it seems to me that he's turned into a three-point shooter that is not a good three-point shooter. So who am I most worried about in regards to our offense? Believe it or not, it's the King. Because if he's not putting pressure on the rim, I don't know if we have many players that are going to do that. We let Lonnie Walker walk. He was one of the best players we had for that. He's gone. He's in Brooklyn now. So, is Cam Reddish going to do something like that? Is Taurean Prince going to be somebody putting the ball on the floor like that? Max Lewis can obviously do it, but is he going to be somebody you're going to have on the floor very much this year? No. Max Christie can do it, but is he ready to be that type of pressure guy on the rim? No. He ain't there yet. He's about 2 summers away from being that person, dunking on people like that, repeatedly taking that type of punishment. This is just year 2 for him. Austin Reeves is crafty. He's going to put pressure on the rim from within his perspective and how he does it, but not what we're talking about. We need somebody piercing to the basket, dunking on somebody like Cam Whitmore would have did, like LeBron used to do, like Russell Westbrook, Jaylen Brown. Just a few names that come to mind that I know they specialize in that. And so I don't know where that piece is coming from on this team. And because of it, we're a jump shooting team. And that, my friends, caps off your upside. So as I look at Kelly Oubre Jr.'s possibility of being on this team, this is exactly why I wanted Bol Bol on the team. It's exactly why I was going to put Gigi Jackson in my mock draft. It's because we don't have that rim pressure that I know is essential to helping this basketball team be a champion. You need that rim protection, and you need that rim pressure. And so these are things that I think that we can do better on as we continue to search out what we're doing. I would tell our GM, let Gabe Vincent be the last guy that we put on this team that ain't specializing at driving. Because we're putting too many guys on this team that layup. I'm telling you, we're getting packed. You're going to get packed. And if anybody don't remember what that means is getting blocked. That's what we used to call blocks back in the day here in LA, where I was from. We call it a pack. You got packed. We're going to be getting packed because we're going to be under the rim with a lot of the stuff that we do with Gabe Vincent, Jalen Hood-Schifino, D'Angelo Russell. These dudes don't put no pressure on the rim like that. Layup, block. A Wemby, all these dudes. Lively. They're going to be sending our stuff the other way. So that's what I would tell our GM. As over the years, we did certain things. We put together our roster, but there would always be something missing. That's the one thing I say about how we put our teams together. It's just that the first year we went for all shooting, but all age. Everybody was old. Nobody could be retraded for nothing. The only thing we were worried about was putting 40% shooters on this team. If you could shoot the three at above 40%, that was the criteria for being a Laker the first year we put Bron together. We had so many players on this team that could do that and nothing else. It was ridiculous. We sucked so bad. We had a bunch of kids and a bunch of old dudes that specialized in shooting the three the year before and didn't shoot nothing like that the year they got to us. And it translated to just not much of nothing. We weren't nothing. Honestly, it was Bron running around. He ended up getting hurt halfway through the season. We saw how that went. The next year, we put together a team, won the championship. That was 2020, the longest season in the history of mankind. Third year, put together a team, didn't have enough shooting. We had put together some pieces like Montrezl Harrell and Dennis Schroeder that we had gotten at a discount, but had not a real fit for those players. We only had them because we can get them for cheap. And they were such high-level guys. But really came down to it, we didn't have the elements in place to make us a good enough shooting team. We didn't have the elements in place to make us enough to have a solidified center position with Trez and Drummond kind of sharing that in the end. It just didn't make much sense. We ended up having continuity issues based on how we didn't want to play Trez. It was just all kinds of bad with Vogel that year. We weren't constructed necessarily to win. And then put ourselves in a position to have Russell Westbrook on the team. Clearly we didn't have the shooting. Clearly he wasn't right for us, given the fact that he was eating up so much of the cap playing so poorly. That went left. Came back the next year, still had that problem. Couldn't get him off the books till halfway through the season. And that's when we started doing things that made sense. But the point was, it was always something missing. It was always us either trying too hard to make up for something we didn't have the previous year, or trying to incorporate something that we didn't have a full plan for, or something. This year, it's not enough pressure on the damn rim. That's where we're messing up. You know, all these dudes are going to be laying the ball up underneath the rim, and it's not going to translate to what it is that we need, which is strength, pure power coming at the rim. And so that's what I'm telling us. We need to look for that piece. We need to find it and put it on our squad, because that is going to ultimately be our Achilles heel this year. Either that or Bron got to get back to Miami days of driving every 6 plays. He needs to be attacking the rim. Straight up. That's what we need from him this year. And it's going to be a drive-by committing situation. But understand that you're dealing with twice the size of length that you've ever dealt with in the history of probably since the early days of the old 80s and 70s when centers ran the earth. And it was all about the big man. That's the type of length that's returning to the fold now. That you see what Wembanyama's going to be doing, Chet Holmgren's going to be doing, all these different dudes, Bol in Phoenix now, the 2 Twin Towers in Minnesota. This is not the year to have dudes that lay the ball up. Nah. This ain't that. And that's exactly what we have. So I'm telling y'all, as I envision what our team's going to be, Max Christie, we're going to need that athleticism from him. Like I said, Taurean Prince going to have to put his head down and get to the rim in certain situations at this stage in his career. Is that even his game? I don't really know. We'll find out. You know what I mean? Cam Reddish, if he gets some playing time, which I have my questions about if he'll even get that playing time. You know, Lob City with our center, we're going to have to lob the ball to him a lot to kind of make up for that. His athleticism can help with that. But from the center position, you know, we're talking about Jackson Hayes. How much is he going to be on the floor? I have my questions about if he'll even see the floor very much, to be honest with you, given the track record that our coach has. Rui Hachimura is going to have to do some of that, but I don't really trust his handle to ask him to be putting pressure on the rim like that, especially as a 4. Yeah, I'd love for him to do it, and I know he's going to do it, but that's not what we need. We need a guard who can pierce. And as I look around this roster, as I continue to think, I just don't know where that piece is. We got everything but that. So yeah, that's what I want to say, man. I just think that it's gonna be drive by committee. Austin Reeves, Max Christie, Bron James, Anthony as well. Y'all just got to be driving, man. Y'all got to remember to put pressure on the rim because the guards, they're not going to. They're not finishing in the paint. And that's something we also got used to. You know, well, it's the same conversation, but because Russell Westbrook was so efficient in the paint, because Bron James, AD, all these guys that we had, Lonnie Walker, you know, some of our guys last year, again, Dennis Schroeder, that was something that he did. He put pressure on the rim. That's another thing that's going to be glaring in regards to, and what separates him and Gabe Vincent, in my opinion, is Dennis Schroeder, you can count on to get to the line 7-8 times if you give him the ball enough times. Gabe Vincent, that's not going to necessarily be his game. So that's where they separate. But, yeah, that piece is out. You bring in Gabe. He's not, again, redundancies, but it's all what we're talking about. We need that piece. It's gone now. So that's it, man. That's all there is to it. I want us to try to, if we can bring Kelly Oubre in, he'll bring us a lot of that. He'll bring us a lot of that. That's basically what he does. So I'm excited to see. Maybe guys can shock me. Maybe Jalen would be somebody who drives at the rim even more. But I can already tell that's not necessarily his game. Not in the way that you need him to be. So, you know, I'm not saying our guys are never going to drive the ball. I'm not saying they're never going to dunk the ball. I'm just saying in traffic, in a half-court setting, you're shooting jumpers. As a team, you're shooting jumpers. And as much as LeBron James was settling for that three last year, I'm expecting even more of the same. And if he shoots as bad as he did last year, we're going to be screaming at the phone. It ain't going to be pretty, man. So, yeah, if I've been thinking about some of the stuff, well, if I could share with you guys what I've been thinking about, it really is LeBron, y'all. I've been thinking about LeBron. How much does he have left, man? How much do you have left, King James? Because I was really concerned what I saw in Denver. And like I said, we're going to harken it off to the foot. We're going to call it a foot, and that's it. But for me, it's like, I can see a world where he plays another 5 years. But I could also see a world where his body's telling him right now that he's done. And maybe he just ain't really ready to say that. He ain't really ready to tell nobody that. And that doesn't mean he's not going to be able to get his 25-5-5, because he will. It just means that there's going to be circumstances where he ain't going to do nothing for you. On defense, he ain't going to be able to play certain games. And in moments during the end of the season when you need him to have something, he's going to be gassed. And I was listening to something that this Miami Heat guy was saying. I was listening to I think it was Locked On Lakers. They had a conversation with a Heat representative podcaster who was telling us a little bit about Gabe Vincent and giving us a rundown of how Gabe plays. And he was essentially saying about LeBron James that if you have certain things in place, you're just automatically going to win because LeBron James, that's what it works. That's how it goes. LeBron James is good. If you have this, and this, if you got Bron on your team, you won. I'm like, that's the Bron you remember from Miami. That ain't the Bron we got in L.A. The Bron we got in L.A., it's like he don't really affect winning like that at all. If other guys ain't doing their job, he's like a complimentary side dish to the scoring, to the rebounding. You know what I mean? He's going to finish easy buckets at the rim. But as far as that translating to you winning, he could do all of that. And you still lost if other people didn't play well. And that wasn't the case in Cleveland and Miami. So it's like, whatever it took to get wins in the past, I don't know if it's going to be the same thing now. And so it's like, if AD ain't giving us all the best of AD, and Bron is starting to show us that it's starting to be over with, I'm relying upon unproven players and third-year guys who just got paid, who ain't played a whole lot of basketball, to really carry the meat and potatoes of my team. And Gabe Vincent and Taurean Prince. Now that's good enough. Maybe Gabe Vincent and Taurean Prince can give me a lot. But I also see a world where Gabe Vincent and Taurean Prince are the two guys we trying to move. We trading them to get, you know what I mean? That's how that's set up for me. When I look at Gabe Vincent contract, I'm like, oh yeah, that's the one I'm trading. As soon as I see anything I'm trying to get, it's going to be Gabe Vincent, Taurean Prince, second-round picks. So it's like I don't really have them incorporated as role players as much as I have them incorporated as trade pieces. And I'm just telling people that right now. The vision that I have for Gabe Vincent on this team ain't like Miami. I'm just telling people the truth. It ain't. Because when I look at stuff that's expendable on my roster, he's going to be one of the first things I'm looking at. I'm just being honest. And I know that's not popular because everybody's like, oh, Gabe Vincent just came. I'm like, yeah, Gabe Vincent's a role player. He really is. He's a good one, too. But he's of the Schroeder variety. And when it comes to that, that's not a main character. That's not somebody that you're saying, now we got our piece, we're moving forward. And if you think that, you're going to probably not feel that way as the season or the seasons progress to that contract. He's a good player. But again, if you're looking to upgrade, one of the first things you're looking at in regards to our asset class is going to be his contract. So I'm going to be the only person who probably says that, but it's the truth. I ain't moving Austin. I ain't moving, Rui. Those guys I want to keep for real. I'm obviously Bron AD. D'Lo's contract automatically, that's trade stuff. So that everybody knows that's moving. Unless they decide not to move it. But what I'm saying is that's the first thing anybody's looking at in regards to moving anything on this team is D'Lo's contract. And D'Lo knows that. And so these are the type of things that just worked into the thought. But like when I start thinking about, okay, how can I improve my team? Let's say somebody goes down. Somebody goes down that I can't replace. Maybe Jackson Hayes goes down. How can I get better? The contracts that are likely going to be looked at is easy to let go of will be Gabe Vincent's. You're going to look at Vanderbilt's, unfortunately, as an expiring contract of $4 million. You're not going to want to trade that. Excuse me. But the thing about Vanderbilt for the Lakers is he is going to be comfortable around the league. You may not have the role for him. And so that's the part that bothers me. And if we end up finding out that we don't have no more than $4 million worth of basketball to give him to showcase himself, meaning he only going to get like 15 minutes half of the season and there going to be some DNPs and stuff like that, I don't know that we're not getting the most out of him if we don't trade him. Because at the end of the day, he's obviously going to want an extension. And if you can't give him a better role than that, then he's obviously going to have better opportunities somewhere else. So once he hit free agency, I think it's a good chance you lose him if you can't find a way to keep him on the floor. And given the fact that we have all these forwards, Anthony Davis, Bron James, both playing the forward, Rui Hachimura playing forward, Max Lewis in the ring, I just don't know if Vanderbilt actually has a future with the Lakers, even though I want to keep him. So these are the type of things I'm looking at. He said $4 million. That's probably going to get moved. As much as I hate to admit it, that's probably going to get moved. So I'm just preparing people for what it is I see there. If we have to make any mid-season trades, these are players that people are going to be either asking for or the Lakers are likely going to be looking at as expendable. I'm just telling people right away. So Taurean Prince, even though I like the player, he's an expiring contract. I mean, the Lakers have a track record of not trading expiring contracts as of late. Malik Monk, Walker, we kind of let players walk on a one-year deal. So maybe that gives Prince some security on his team to say, we're probably going to want you in the playoffs. We're likely probably not going to trade you. But overall, when you have a one-year deal, it is usually trade bait, just in general. So that's what we just automatically inherently know. So, like, that's what I'm saying. Vanderbilt, Prince, easily moved at the deadline. Don't want to do it. Probably don't opt to do it unless you see something you love there, or you have to for whatever reason. But I'm telling y'all, they should be ready for that. Those players should definitely have that in mind, unfortunately. And so that's just the game. That's the NBA game, man. That's why I tell people, when you sign certain contracts, know what those contracts actually do. Because there's other teams that have those same contracts that are looking to move. And it just is what it is. Once you lock yourself into one of those dollar amounts, now people can match you with that guy. Okay, he can go here, he can go here, he can go here. And that's how they look at it. And so you got to know that before you sign the contract, so you know how you want to be slotted and what possibilities you could be moved for and all these different stuff. You want to know that before you sign a contract. If I got the same contract as Halliburton, I know there's a small chance I can end up a Pacer. You know what I mean? Because he has that contract. So these are things that people just need to understand. It don't always work that way, but it's the easiest way to make things work, and so you better look at it that way. Anyway, that's pretty much my thought right now, you guys. I'm enjoying talking basketball. I don't know where this content is coming from. It ain't much to talk about, and I just find something anyway. But the NBA gives you plenty, man. It's 30 teams. It's a million different players, and there's a lot to study. So I just think that I'm starting to realize that for me, making content is about just picking one of them teams and just looking at all the stuff that I already think about all day long any damn way, 'cause I'm weird like that. So it's like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, random team, let's talk about them. Okay, I see what they got. Okay, you could probably move that for something else that I've been studying as well. So the NBA just gives you a lot to talk about if you really think about it. It's just that a lot of people don't think people want to hear about other teams, and my thing is, I don't do it for that. That's not why I do this at all. And so if you happen to like what I'm talking about, awesome. But if you don't, just know that I'm looking at every team equally, and I happen to be a Laker fan. So as it pertains to equally, one canvas is just good as any other. Utah Jazz, Miami Heat, Minnesota Timberwolves, I'm not dealing with the weather. So it's all the same thing to me. You feel me? So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. And respect that when I tell guys to move on from certain situations, that I too have a hard time moving on from situations. So if I say, all right, 2 years, just be there for 2 years, know that I probably don't want to leave where I'm at for 2 years. You know what I'm saying? And I try to keep respect for that. But I'll tell you, with the money that's going back and forth with these guys, I would bite the bullet. I'll tell you that. I respect what they have and how blessed they are to be there. And so hopefully we can just kind of boost, them, I guess, unsure, I don't know the word, but to kind of push people in the direction that lead them on the right path from my perspective. Because I know for a fact that these guys often choose the wrong things, not quite knowing what the landscape truly is and what questions to ask. Sometimes their teams may not be in a position, teams meaning their management company and the people they trust, may not be in a position to give them all that they need for whatever set of reasons. So I give them what I see, and hopefully I can be yet another voice in the room that helps people make good decisions in the NBA. So that's my goal, or one of many, and I hope everybody's enjoying the content. My name is BDL44. I thank you all for watching.